Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it was sent to me by one of our admins, translated from isiZulu. The message reads like this: My brother and I were raised by our father. Our mother had succumbed to breast cancer. Our father was very fond of us, and there is not even one day when we lacked anything. We had maids at our disposal. We went to the best of the best schools. I will not mention the lots of vacations and the globe-trotting adventures. I can say that this was nothing but a pretty nice childhood. My brother and I, we were very close, despite the normal cat fights that happen between siblings. I can say that we were okay, because whenever my brother will bring some of his girlfriends as well as his friends for house parties, when my dad would have gone to see some of these big politicians, so you would go for days and days having those meetings at different hotels, I will never pimp on my brother when my father would have returned. And sometimes they would actually hire a taxi and they would pay whatever that needed to be paid using our father's bank cards, and I would just keep quiet. They will hire that taxi, then they will just go out having the parties in the taxi as it will be driven around. He had even introduced me to his first girlfriend, and I had promised him that his little secret was safe with me. My brother was quite popular at school because the money that we had, good at sports too, handsome and coming from a well-up family, came as an advantage to my brother. My brother and I, we were 2 years apart, him being the oldest sibling. But when we reached our puberty stage and on our birthdays, father had given us 2 very short black dolls that I could not even understand. When asked why a doll, when my brother asked our father why he had decided to give us these 2 black dolls of all the things that were in the world, our father, I still remember that he said, we had everything that we wanted at our disposal, just that he had realized that he never bought us dolls when we were younger. So this was his way of compensating us. As young as we were, we never thought much of it. We grew up, my dad loved ourselves. We grew up and we did well for ourselves, and my brother had graduated top of his medicine class, and I had enrolled at a beauty college. Father had been there through it all, holding our hands and cheering us on. One day, when I was coming from college, I had received a phone call that our dad was not feeling too well and he had been rushed to the hospital. Our helper had told us that he was complaining of tummy aches. It must be a stomach bug. There was no need to panic. He will be fine, I assured myself. I went to see him during the evening visiting session together with my brother. He told us that he loved us very much. All that he wanted was for us to grow up happy and trauma-free. He also asked for forgiveness. I clearly remember him saying, I hope you find it in your heart to forgive me. And I know that you are not going to like the things that I did when you are going to find out that this is what I did. But when I am long gone, I want you to find it in your heart to forgive me. The visiting time was over and I was left with questions. Just what was father talking about? Why was he asking for forgiveness? For I clearly remember that our father never lifted his hand on us. He had never done something bad that was truly despicable. He was always there protecting us. I would ask the following morning. So I told myself what he meant when we will come back for another visitation. I woke up the following morning and we went to his ward. He was not at his bed. His clothes were neatly folded. The nurse in charge took my brother and I and then broke the news to us. Our father was no more. Our father had died shortly after we had left. We both broke down and we cried. Our father had left us. Our father was no more. whom would I ask what he meant when he asked us for forgiveness? The uncles were called and arranged a funeral for their brother according to our traditional way. It was a decent send-off. Besides, our father had been extremely organized. He had his funeral policies, and the uncles used some of the money to settle his bills. His lawyer was called and to read out his will, and it stated that his estate be equally shared between his children. His older brother was to get the cars. No one contested the will because they had so much respect of our father. And beside, our father was that type of a man who had upgraded his whole family. It was hard moving on after our father had passed on, but with time it got better. Between me and my brother, none of us seemed to have a romantic relationship. Some fizzled out before they even started. Our loyal helper had once advised us to downgrade. Maybe it was the wealth that intimidated the suitors. As for me, I could see that most of the guys, they were scared to approach me because they knew that my father was a financial tycoon. He was a wealthy man. We even did that, but still it did not change anything. I still remember that I would go to one of my auntie, who was my late mother's sister, and I'll just pretend as if I am just a regular location girl, but no guy will ever approach me. Each and every time, like when I would try to put myself in a position whereby a guy will end up proposing love to me, the guy will seem so nervous. I still remember this other guy when he finally asked for my phone numbers. I have never seen something like that, Brother Nashi. This man, when I gave him my phone so that he can punch his phone numbers into my phone, the guy, he was shaking. His hands were so shaking that he felt so embarrassed. And when he gave me the phone, I found out that the phone numbers that he had punched in my phone later on, there were 9 numbers. And I knew that this guy, there was something that maybe he had seen in me, something that had made him to be very nervous like that. That was when the masturbation started. I was so lonely. So I ended up buying some sex toys and pleasing myself. I had not found one who was serious about marriage. So then my auntie asked me what was wrong with me, if I was a lesbian or what, and she was just laughing and joking when she asked me if I was a lesbian, and I said, no, auntie, I also want to get married. Then auntie said I should not worry because there was going to be an arranged marriage. So she said that she had this other friend of hers, but the friend was staying in another area in Soweto, so she was going to speak with her friend and to see if they could arrange anything. Then the marriage was arranged, my brother. At the day of the ceremony, this guy, he did not pitch up. I felt humiliated. What was happening to me? What was happening to us? Later on, the guy apologized to me because he said that he just felt that he didn't love me at all. So I asked myself, what type of a man will... So when the guy told me that he did not love me, he didn't feel a thing for me, I just broke down and I cried. With all the money that our father had left for us, this guy, he was nothing. He was just a poor man. I was going to upgrade him, but he had told me that he had told me that his heart belonged to another. So I gave up, my brother. And as for my brother, the same thing that was happening to me, that was the same thing that was happening to him as well. One day when I was at work, my workmate invited me to a prayer revival. I was someone who didn't want to go to church, remember, about the sex toys. So the more that I masturbated and pleased myself in bed, the more that I felt guilty when I'll be at church, because sometimes I'll quickly do it before I would go to church. So I was reluctant to go, but she would not take no for an answer. I even tried making excuses, but she would hear none of it. Well, there was no harm in going. It's not like we were going for the whole day. It would only be for a few hours. The prayer revival started, and when the prophecy time came, this other pastor suddenly called my name, and I felt my heart as it was banging against my chest. I thought that he was going to expose me, that sometimes when I come to church, I please myself. He then told me that I had a doll that my late father had gifted to me, a very short black doll. So that doll was the source of my problems. He said that he was not going to say much in front of the people and asked to see me when the service was over. So I went and I saw this pastor, and he told me as it was that my father had gifted me a doll. Me and my brother had been gifted these dolls, these two black dolls. So we were told that these were not ordinary dolls. And the pastor asked me a very funny question. He said, this doll that you were given, what type of a gender is this doll? So at that time, I didn't even think that these dolls that our father had given to us, they had a certain gender, because they didn't have any like private parts or anything. So I said, no, I don't think that it is a male or a female doll. The pastor then said, you should look closely, but I want to pray for you so that when you return back home, this doll is not going to attack you. But I want to tell you here and now that the doll that your father gave to you, that is your own husband. Your father, he went to Mozambique, and when he went there, he was then given two demons, a female one and a male demon. And just before your mother had passed away, your father was made to swear an oath that when his time will come, when he is about to die, he is supposed to leave these two demons in your hands. So that traditional healer from Mozambique, he also came here to South Africa after my father had finished building his mansion. And then there were more rituals that were done. And in his bedroom, there was an altar that was set up where he dedicated my name, and he married me off to one of the demons, the male demon, and my brother, he married off my brother to the female demon. The pastor then prayed for me, and he said that all the money that my father had, the source of the money, it was because of this dark magic that he was using. Those two black dolls, they were actually tokoloshis, and I can never get married because of this tokoloshi. Even my brother, he can never be married because it is not possible. The example that he gave to me is like when you go and you get married, and immediately when you sign the documents there at the Home Affairs, they know that you are married and they won't allow you to get married again. So the pastor said that is the same thing that is happening to me and my brother. We are already married off. I am married to this spiritual husband, then my brother is married off to that spiritual wife, and we were dedicated at that altar. The pastor prayed for me. After the pastor had prayed for me, I then returned back home, and when I looked for that doll, to my surprise, I could not find it. It seemed as if these two demons, they had already gotten to my brother, because by the time that I returned back home, I saw that my brother, he had a lot of ladies, those ladies of the night, and they were busy drinking alcohol. And I asked him about the whereabouts of those two black dolls that our father had left for us. Then he said, no, I do not remember our father giving us any doll at all. So I started to cry because I saw that the devil had already gotten to him. Up until today, my brother, he has refused to tell me where he placed these dolls, where he is keeping them. It seemed as if these two demons, they still want to torment us, but now it seems as if they are working hand in hand with my own brother. The pastor has told me not to be violent with my brother, but to keep on praying. Currently, my brother, I am a woman who is aged 36 years old. I can see that at my age, I am supposed to have a child, but I do not have a child at all. Yes, with time, I have met guys that claim to love me, but you will just see that this person, he is only there in my life for the sake of money. I am someone whom you can say that I am unlovable. As for my brother, he survives on these prostitutes. And I want to confess to you that the most demon that I am fighting against that defeats me sometime, like 3 days ago at night, after I had prayed. Who does that, my brother? After I had prayed, that was when I went online. Then I started to view this pornographic material, and I just felt that I needed to do it once more. And the moment that I started to do it, this was like 2 months after I had promised myself that I need to go down on my knees so that I can start praying again. So I lasted for about 2 months without using those sex toys to please myself. But I felt, my brother, because a few days ago, that was when I started to view that pornographic material. After I had finished, then I started to please myself. And now that addiction, it is coming back to me. The pastor said that the moment that I'll be masturbating, I'll be pleasing myself, but in the spiritual world, I'll be having sexual intercourse with that demonic spirit, and this makes it to have a claim upon my life. Currently, when the pastor asks me if I am praying, I just lie to him that, yes, pastor, I am praying and I am fasting, but I have already given up on myself. Dear listeners, right there was a message that was sent to me by one of our admins, translated from isiZulu. Yo, strange things do happen in this world. Yo, please let us speak with our dear sister in the comment section. If you have lived that life whereby you were once addicted to this thing of pleasing yourself, masturbating and stuff like that, if you were able to come out of that, please tell us in the comment section. You can just tell us how you were able to defeat that spirit, so that we can actually help our dear sister, and not only our dear sister, but I know that a lot of people will be assisted. So let us talk about that issue in the comment section.